The next thing is mindset. Because I think in the world of making a living, having to go to work, you get exactly that, the mindset of have to. It's one of the things that is most assumed about our lives, that we have to work. It is just not true. It is a fallacy. None of us have to work. All of us choose to work. All of us, in fact, cannot not work because we're applying our energy. But there is nobody in this room that has to work. If we don't have work, what don't we have? Money. And what's the problem with that? In my organizational development work and in my leadership work, I often ask people if they have any leadership heroes. And I will bet you every so often, in the top 3 people that they say inspire them in terms of leadership is Gandhi. How did Gandhi get on without any money? I think he got on pretty well. Yeah? He didn't have to work to earn a living, to get some money behind him so that he could then go out and do what he did in the world. Gandhi did all that without any money at all. He didn't even have a Twitter account. So there is the idea, I think, in the idea of moving from out of the having to work, the world of making a living, to into the world of creating a life, which is about want to. And I think that wanting to is such a powerful force in our lives. My youngest child, Lexi, who is just turned 7, a couple of years ago, he graduated from kindergarten. Yeah, and he went, Kerry and I went to see him graduate from kindergarten, and there they all were, lined up on stage. All the little kids came in, and the school had made them little mortarboards and capes, and they all came trooping in, you know, and they sang a couple of songs, and they did a little skit. And at the end of the assembly, at the end of this celebration, this graduation ceremony that they had, they came in one at a time, and the teacher was at the front with a microphone. And she invited them down one at a time to say, okay, here you are, John, here's your certificate. She'd made them all certificates of graduation from kindergarten. Here's your certificate. Here's a little gift from me. And then she asked them one question. And the question was, what do you want to do when you grow up? And these are 6- and 7-year-old kids. And you can imagine, can you not, that most of them were saying, well, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a football player, or I want to be a designer, or I want to be. It was wanting to. And then this little girl came up. She was called Natalie. I remember her. She came down, and she got the certificate, and she got the present, and the teacher asked her the question, what, Natalie, do you want to do for a living? And she went, I want to work at the mall. And everybody laughed and laughed, and all the parents going, ha, 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 yes, well, that will probably happen. Yes, yes, because of course we are adults and we know what the real world is really like, don't we? These fools who think they're going to be astronauts or climbers or football players, of course, they are fools. But this little girl probably will end up in the mall. In fact, most of them spoke with a strange British accent like that. It was very strange. But you know, for me, it doesn't matter what is at the end of, I want to be a. That doesn't matter. What matters is that you've still got the energy in your life that you want to be something that you are not yet, something that pulls you forward into the future. And that is an utterly different energy than the energy that we sometimes give to our children, which is, yes, and you'll have to, of course, get a job. I remember it in my own life. When I got to university, I was lucky enough to go to Oxford University and met Bruce Mitchell. Working, he said. Bruce Mitchell, when I went to university, my mum sat me down and she said, oh, David, you're going to university. My brother and my sister hadn't been to university, so she was very proud of that. She said, David, you are going to have such a great time. You're going to meet so many people, you're going to be inspired, you're going to make friends, and you're going to have fun. It's just going to be an amazing time in your life, she said. And it was. And then about 2 or 3 years later, I came out of the university and I got a job. And the talk I got from her was completely different. She said, well, don't work too hard. And just, you know, make sure you have a good relationship with the boss and then you don't get fired. And all. It was like, what changed? You know, why can't you have the conversation about it can be amazing, David, when you get into the world of work? But for some reason we take that wanting to out of things. So thinking to yourself, how have you got into this having to work? Having to work. The other tool that I would give you is the idea of the ladder of consciousness. It's created by a British philosopher called Colin Wilson, popularized by a guy called Steve Chandler, who's an amazing author. And both Colin Wilson and Steve Chandler talk about the ladder of consciousness. And it's a very simple but very powerful model. You know? And it says that in a ladder you can go one way or the other. You can either go, thank you, or you can go, thank you very much indeed. And the idea is maybe most times up is better than down. Somebody did once point out to me that a ladder can in fact go sideways if you're in a library. But they were then forced to leave my talk for pointing that out. So you can either go up the ladder or down the ladder, yeah? And the whole having to thing, that's way down the ladder of consciousness. It takes you in completely different energy, completely different vision about your life, completely different conversations with people around you. You bring wanting to in any group of people, a whole different energy kicks off. So it's the wanting to that we need to get people towards. Does that make sense? Yeah. So how can we want to do the thing we are already doing? And if we cannot want to do what we're already doing, how can we find the space to create the other things in our life that we truly want? Because that's going to take us up the ladder of consciousness.